All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to our virtual town hall on coronavirus for fraternity and sorority members and advisors. My name is Mike Eilon. I am the CEO and founder of Greek University. With so many questions surrounding coronavirus and the impact on higher education, and specifically the Greek community, we wanted to offer you as much information as possible from our available resources, since the health and safety of our students, that is our highest priority. We're also truly in debt to our medical professionals who are treating patients with coronavirus or those suspected to have coronavirus. So if you know any of these medical professionals, if they're your friends, your family, please say thank you for the work that they do. Keep them in your prayers because they are the true heroes. One of our college campus speakers is Dr. Louis Profeta. He will be our virtual speaker for the town hall today. We are recording this town hall, and I will provide a link to the recording for those who could not join us today. And then at the conclusion of Dr. Profeta's introduction, and after answering some of the questions that he's been asked by some of our followers over the last couple of days, we'll then open up this town hall to all of our students and administrators and professionals that are on with us live today, so that way you can ask any questions relating to coronavirus. So I'll give a little brief introduction here of Dr. Profeta. Dr. Louis Profeta is a nationally recognized award-winning writer and emergency physician at St. Vincent Hospital of Indianapolis, which is a level 1 trauma center. He also serves on the board of directors for Forensic Services. And during his career as an emergency physician, he's cared for more than 60,000 patients. He is the best-selling author of the critically acclaimed book, The Patient in Room 9 Says That He's God. He is a dynamic and sought-after public speaker, also a frequent guest on numerous TV shows and radio. He's gained critical acclaim for his poignant essays and writings for LinkedIn Pulse magazines on topics such as the national heroin crisis, end-of-life care, veteran issues, and also drug and alcohol abuse on college campuses. In 2015, 2016, and 2017, he was named LinkedIn Top Voice for Readership in Healthcare, and he has earned honors from the Society of Professional Journalism, Writer's Digest, and the National Society of Newspaper Columnists for outstanding contribution to online media. His essay titled A Sunday Talk on Sex, Drugs, Drinking, and Dying may be the most read and shared piece in history on the topic of drugs, sexual assault, and alcohol abuse on college campuses, which has been read by millions and millions of people. So please welcome to our town hall today, Dr. Louis Profeta. Thank you so much, Dr. Profeta, for joining us today. Hold on one second. I think.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Hear you. Yep.
All right. Thank you for having me, Michael. You cut out for a while. I couldn't hear you for a while, but okay. Thank you.
Yes. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Why don't you start off by just giving us a little bit of an overview of coronavirus, what it is, and what you're seeing out there in the field? Well,
I think we all pretty much know what it is now. Obviously, it's a respiratory virus that probably started in the Wuhan province of China. Coronaviruses have been around forever. I mean, we've known about coronavirus as a common cause of respiratory illnesses, but this is a sort of a new variant or a new mutation of coronavirus. It probably jumped vectors, maybe from an animal host to a human host, and now has become a respiratory pathogen all across the country or all across the world. And unfortunately, it is extremely contagious. And the mortality ratio for corona is much higher than what we see on typical respiratory viruses. To give you an idea, flu has a fatality ratio of about 0.1%, and this is approaching 1 to 2%. Some data shows maybe 3 to 4% fatality ratio. So it's highly infectious, and the fatality ratio is 10, 20, 30 times higher than what we normally see with something like influenza.
Okay. So what should we be doing now? What's your advice to people that are out there, whether it be college campuses, whether it be college students, whether it be administrators? What should we be doing?
Well, we talk talk about this a lot. It's interesting. We have spent a ton of energy after post 9/11 on focusing on what we do in terms of mass casualty. And most of the mass casualty things that we prepared for in this country were really things like terrorism, bioterrorism, physical terrorism, or hurricanes, or tornadoes, or earthquakes, when in actuality, the medical community has known forever that the thing that we needed to worry about the most was a highly contagious virus that we did not have a vaccine for, did not have a treatment for, that would go through the country really quick and would tax our healthcare system. And, the thing about Corona is the people that die from this, the people that are at most risk, tend to be people that are opposite ends of the spectrum, what your typical college student is going to consider as being a risk, factor for them. They tend to be elderly people with a lot of comorbidities, people with emphysema, congestive heart failure, COPD, those kind of things. So in their psyche, it's not really on their mind, but they don't understand that this has tremendous impact on the entire health and well-being of everybody in the country, because if they're bringing this to older family members, they're going to pretty much wipe out healthcare in a lot of ways, and that's where our biggest fear is. One of our biggest fears is that we're not going to be able to support the healthcare of the country.
What's your advice to politicians and other people? For example, I live in a suburb of Nashville. I'm looking at videos from last night of people going out to the honky tonks in downtown Nashville, congregating in large populations. What's your advice to politicians and other people that are watching this, trying to figure out, how do we get a handle on this thing? What do we do?
Well, this isn't just a politician issue. I mean, this is a societal issue. I mean, we can't be any clearer. I mean, you can only tell people so much. Quit going out, quit congregating, quit going into groups of people. We have to have sort of social isolationism. And it's amazing how many people aren't listening. And college students are some of the worst offenders of this. And what they're doing is having tremendous impact on the health and well-being of this country right now. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you watch TV and you watch sort of the social culture of college campuses, and they pride themselves on how woke they are, how cognizant they are about the world as a whole. But some of this behavior, some of the most dangerous behavior that's ever been, perpetrated, I guess, by young people in our nation's history. And they're doing it, sort of flaunting it. And it is so tragic. It is so sad. I can tell you that people will die because of this behavior. Some of my colleagues, some of our nurses, some of the doctors that I work with will die as a result of this behavior. And we have to step to the bat, and we have to plate and tell them just to stop. Okay, they need to grow up. They need to come back. They need to isolate themselves. Quit congregating in parties and social events. That you can't be any more clear than that. We have to flatten the curve. Have to decrease the transmissibility of this virus.
Now, some young people are doing the right thing. I've seen where people are congregating. I've actually seen people trying to give temperature readings to their guests to try and figure out if anybody has a fever. But now some of the information that I'm reading is that even if you're asymptomatic, you can still shed the virus. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I mean, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. I mean, it looks good, makes you feel like maybe you're being responsible, but you aren't. I mean, you can't be any clearer. Just quit going out, self-quarantine, stay at home, shore up for a couple months. We got to slow the spread of this. Hopefully, as the summer months come in, it'll start to burn itself out, but we're not even sure if that'll happen. But we do know this: the more people that have it, the more people that are sharing it among themselves, increases the likelihood it's going to spread to nursing homes, to healthcare centers, which it already is, impact immunocompromised people, and potentially wipe out hundreds of thousands of our citizens. And there's not a damn thing we can do about it.
All right, let's talk about the fraternity and sorority community specifically for a moment. We had some questions come in from some of our followers. The first question: should students be asked or allowed to quarantine in fraternity and sorority houses if they test positive?
That's a good question. It's one that I've sort of wrestled with. I mean, what do you do with these huge population of students that all of a sudden find themselves, their classes have been shut down in I'm not sure that's necessarily a bad idea, okay? But the thing is, I mean, when's the last time you had a group of college students that all parked their asses inside of a fraternity and sorority and didn't leave for a couple weeks?
Mhm.
And we're talking maybe even a couple months. So if they're responsible enough, and then we can create a mechanism by which you can feed them at the house without sending them out to grocery stores and everything like that, or bring food to them and have it delivered, I don't see why not. Now, the simple fact is 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 are going to get infected, and they'll probably end up spreading it to the entire house. But for the most part, young, healthy college people should do okay from this. So you just may be looking at like a bad flu-type illness going through the house. But what inevitably will happen is 1 or 2 members of fraternity or sorority are going to get sick. Everybody else is going to panic. They're going to run out of the house, go to alternative places, and they're going to infect people in other locations. I mean, if they can be tough enough to just stay there, realize that, their chances are that they are going to get sick, but that we can isolate that pot of individuals in that fraternity or sorority, I don't think that's unreasonable. They should do okay. Our biggest fear is we do not want those people out in contact, and it just takes 1 or 2 degrees of separation. They give it to the checkout person at a grocery store, who passes it on to their grandmother at a nursing home, or their elderly father or mother at home. And that's how these people die. And they'll have no idea that they were the ones responsible for that transmission. But I think it's okay if they can do that, but I think it's unlikely that they will do that from, just from a behavioral aspect.
Okay. Another question regarding the fraternity and sorority community. Within fraternities and sororities, there are certain rituals or ceremonies that take place. Should all of those rituals and ceremonies be temporarily amended, if at all, to mitigate virus spread? So should we be avoiding handshakes, for example?
Hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You should be. Okay. Again, it's got to be distance isolation. Shouldn't be touching anybody for the time being. Okay. You can elbow bump them or something like that, but absolutely constant hand washing, hand sanitizing, things like that. But everything else, okay, save the secret handshake for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Question number 3, and I see this one coming up a lot. How do we keep our students' chapter morale and membership up? I fear that while social distancing is in our best interest, lack of social opportunities and benefits will lead to students dropping out and/or stop paying dues, in turn causing a chapter to cease to exist. So how do we keep morale and membership up in a time of social distancing?
I don't know. I just want to keep them alive. Okay, to hell with morale for the time being. I mean, let's call it what it is. Okay, this is it's like, how do you keep morale up during World War I or World War II? I mean, bad things happen in societies. Maybe it's time to just say, okay, hey, let's grow up for a while. Let's talk about communal responsibility and propping the fact up that, propping up the notion that what they're doing is good for society. Okay, that champion them around that. Okay, and let them be part of the solution. Okay, I mean, they're saving lives if they behave in a rational manner. Morale, I don't know. Okay, that's not my I guess maybe that's not my focus right now. I just don't want myself to die or my partners to die, and that's where my focus is right now. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that you guys need to focus on. Maybe that's the role that you need to have, but I don't know the answer to that. Okay, I do know this, that it has to take a back seat, morale and social structure, to life-saving measures right now.
Mm. So at some point, all of our members and our students are going to return to their houses. What kind of deep cleaning needs to take place? And what personal and group precautions do they need to take when they come back?
Well, I mean, it's good questions. Where are they coming back from? I mean, all these students that are studying in Europe and everything like that, I don't anticipate them coming back anytime soon, or a lot of them. If I had my druthers, we'd be shutting down every college right now in America. All the classes would be, but wiping down surfaces with, antibacterial cleanser, if you can find any, okay. Frequent hand washing, hand sanitizing. I mean, those are all very important things to do, but good luck trying to find that stuff now. I mean, if they're coming back, you're not going to find it. You can't find it in any of the grocery stores. So, the best part of, some of the fraternities and sororities, the amount of grain alcohol they have on hand. And I would encourage them to go online and learn how to make their own hand sanitizers. You can use rubbing alcohol and grain alcohol mixed with aloe gel. And that may be one, temporary solution. But, again, decreasing social contact, trying to wipe down all surfaces, being hygienic. I will tell you this, and I don't know if this will translate, but I've sort of discussed this with my own children. We do know this is a respiratory virus, okay? One of the things we do know about the outbreaks in Italy and Iran and Spain and China is that smokers have a much higher mortality ratio with this. I would encourage us to have open discussions about vaping and use of marijuana and tobacco products in our fraternities and sororities, because, we need to keep those lungs pristine. We need to keep those cilia, the little hair fibers inside the lungs, completely clean of any debris and ability to move this virus out of the lungs as they get sick. And, I fear that the vaping culture and the weed culture and the tobacco culture within fraternity sororities will increase the likelihood of younger people dying in this country. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if that'll be proven true, but it's one thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the resources that we have within the fraternity and sorority community. It seems that the U.S. health system, we have currently a capacity problem. Okay. A recent report from Johns Hopkins stated that we would likely need 200,000 intensive care unit beds, but American hospitals, we only have about 45,000 ICU beds, yeah. Maybe another 45,000 that could be converted into ICU beds. So I guess from a resources standpoint, could we get creative within the fraternity and sorority community, maybe allow dorm space or fraternity and sorority housing to turn them into treatment centers? Just because I do think it could provide the distance between patients that we would need. So I'm just wondering if that's something that we could provide in the future if we do run out of space.
I would love it. And I think that you actually bring up a pretty good point. I never really thought about that, especially with these colleges and smaller communities. Mm-hmm. Their ICUs are going to disappear instantly.
Right.
And they're, my hospital here, I just literally about 10 minutes before we went online here, got a text from one of our ICU docs to see if I had any creative ideas about how we could convert a nearby warehouse into an ICU space. And we have a couple like abandoned grocery stores real close to our hospital. So, we may look into that, but that may be an option. Okay. But, the simple fact, Michael, is if we don't have enough ventilators, which we don't have, we're just going to have to make really hard decisions on who lives and who dies. I never thought in my life that I would ever reach a point where I'd have to take in, and this is what's going to happen. We're going to have parents of these young people that are going to come in and be sick, and we're going to have to look at them in the eye and say, listen, I'm afraid I got nothing for you. And, we're probably going to watch some of these kids' parents die because of this. And it may even be me. And, we're going to do what we can do, but the best thing that we can do is to flatten that curve so that we don't overwhelm the system. Mm-hmm. And this is why it's so important for these young people to heed this warning that if we can decrease the transmissibility, we increase the chance that we're not going to overwhelm our system. And we can still have a large number of people that need ICU care, but if we can, distribute them over a period of 3 to 4 months as opposed to bolusing them over a period of 2 to 3 weeks, it'll make such a huge difference. It'll save so many people's lives.
Yeah.
But I never thought in my lifetime I would see us as a group worrying about the rationing of respiratory life-saving therapies. And guess what? That's where we are. That's where we're headed.
Yeah. Some other resources that I did just want to mention on the call. I know that U-Haul is offering 30 days of free storage to college students that have been displaced by coronavirus. I know Comcast, they're offering their Internet Essentials package for free, which can help students who may not have internet access to take their classes online. And also Enterprise Rent-A-Car, they're offering college student travel assistance in response to the closing of colleges. So those are all opportunities. All right, so we have some questions coming in, and feel free to use the chat feature, and I am receiving those. So let's see, we do have a question that came in from Nicole. She is basically saying that many professionals in higher education often live far away from their families due to limited fraternity and sorority jobs. Can you talk about recommendations for traveling by plane to see family and loved ones? Oh, no audio. I lost your audio there. Hold on one second. Let me see.
Yeah,
Okay.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can
Yeah,
hear
I
you.
wouldn't travel. I wouldn't travel at all right now. I mean, that's my recommendation. To give you an idea of what I'll be doing in a couple days, I start a whole block of 7 days in our or 6 days in our major trauma center, and I'll probably end up. I rented an apartment. I probably won't even be coming home.
Mhm.
I'll camp out there for my days off or to sleep and wash my clothes there and try to have as little contact with anybody as I can. But I wouldn't travel at all. I mean, yeah, it's, as long as you can eat and breathe, just camp out for a couple weeks, hunker
Yeah,
down. That's
hunker
why
down.
God created books.
Yep, that's true. All right, we have another question from my good friend Debbie. She wants to know, what are your recommendations for national conventions that are scheduled for late June? A lot of our fraternities and sororities are all meeting in late June. The question is, what do we do with those events?
I'd cancel them. I don't think this is going to be over in June.
Hmm.
I mean, but we're gonna be doing a lot of recovering from an economic standpoint. Everything. I just don't see it happening. But I mean, it's possible.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I think that you just defer everything a year till the fall and move on.
Hmm. All right. Who else has some questions for Dr. Profeta? Feel free to put them in your chat, and then as they come up, I certainly can ask him. Let's see. How about, let's see here.
Churchill, remember in World War II during the bombing of London and everything, sort of made that comment about this is our finest hour.
Mhm.
In a lot of ways, for the young people in this country, this is their finest hour. This is going to be their Churchillian moment, so to speak. How they respond to this will be remembered for generations to come. So, hopefully they rise to the occasion.
I believe that they will. I believe in our
I do
fraternity
too.
and sorority community.
And I think that there's tons of opportunities, whether, if they want to be involved, they're younger and healthy, whether it's making food or working in food banks or something like that for people that can't get out, for shut-ins. If I were looking at something that I thought the fraternities and sororities could do, it would be utilizing their kitchens to make meals for people, like Meals on Wheels and that kind of stuff, trying to keep that pipeline going, bagging up sandwiches, items like that for healthcare workers, for people in nursing homes, um, for elderly people in the community that maybe not can't get out to get their groceries and stuff.
Mhm.
I just called Amazon delivery just a little bit ago, just curious to see how long it would take to get groceries. I mean, there's like a week delay right
Wow.
now,
Mhm.
so that may be something that they could do.
Yeah, certainly. I think the elderly that are not living in nursing homes that are out by themselves, I'm sure they
Sure.
need groceries, toilet paper,
Yeah.
sanitizer, all the usual stuff. So maybe if we
Right.
can stockpile some of those things that we know people are going to need and then distribute that to the elderly in our community, that could be a way that fraternity and sorority members can help out
Absolutely.
as
I
well.
put a little notice out in our neighborhood about, we need items for our doctors and nurses lounges at our major trauma center because our cafeterias are all closed. All the, for the most part, the restaurants are closed. We're not going to be able to get food while we work. Some of us are going to be there 24 hours plus. And I couldn't believe how much food showed up on my front porch in a matter of a couple hours. So we filled up the nurses lounge, the doctor's lounge is there. That'll be enough for a couple weeks to hold everybody over. But just
Mhm.
simple things like that, reaching out to some of the smaller hospitals in your area, seeing what you can do to support them, because their workers are going to be falling ill. Whether it's pushing gurneys, helping make beds, we can teach them infection control, that kind of stuff. But
Mhm. All right, very good. Any other questions for Dr. Profeta? Feel free to put them into the group chat. I am seeing those in the group chat, so feel free to send those over. Let's see. Let's see what else is going on here. Any other questions? Feel free to throw them in the group chat and we will get Dr. Profeta to answer them. We'll give it another 30 seconds or so. Hey, Dr. Profeta, what are you seeing out there as far as your colleagues? What are your friends that are doctors in the emergency room? What are they talking about? What are they saying?
Well,
What's their outlook?
they're seeing the whole gamut. They're seeing a lot of people that are just sort of walking worried kind of stuff, wanting to come in to be tested. We encourage people not to show up for that.
Mm-hmm.
Do not come to the emergency department unless you're sick. And when we mean sick, trouble breathing, trouble keeping fluids down, things like that. But don't just come in for a fever. Don't just come in for a mild cough. Because all they do is run the risk of exposing themselves to a high viral load. So we got to keep people out of the emergency department. And we have to keep those rooms clean and free for people that really need them.
Okay.
But they are seeing everything from minor COVID infections to people in full-blown respiratory failure requiring intubation and life support. So it's running the gamut. And then we're seeing people die too.
Mm-hmm. One question came in from our good friend Colleen. She wants to know, do you think that drive-through testing is coming widespread in the United States?
Yeah, I think it is, and I hope so. I think it'll help. I think it'll help us better identify pockets of infection and allow people to understand sort of where they are in terms of the quarantine kind of, and I think it'll put people at ease.
Mm-hmm.
So once we get all this testing in place, yeah, I think we'll see that, and I think it's very encouraging that we've entered in sort of this public-private partnership within the government to get places like Walmart and other places to utilize their parking lots and their resources to stage some of this off-site. So yeah, I think it's coming.
All right, that's good. Colleen really appreciates what you're doing. She feels like your message is so important because,
Thank you, Colleen.
like her, she's got kids that have compromised immune systems. And so it's really important, the word that you're getting out there for all of them. I think a lot of us take for granted the fact that, we have strong immune systems. Maybe we're on the younger side of things and we think that we're kind of, impervious to this, but the reality is that we can be people that are shedding this virus to others who have compromised immune systems, like Colleen's kids, and so it is so important what you're doing. So we thank you for your service. We thank you for the work that you're doing at the hospitals there in Indianapolis, and their boy is thankful for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. That's kind of her.
Yeah. Any other questions before we let Dr. Profeta get back to the emergency room? I'll give it about 10 or 15 more seconds. Feel free to throw that into the chat down below if you have any questions or anything like that.
So again, the take-home message, Michael, is let's stop the parties for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stop smoking for a while. Let's give our lungs a chance to rest. Consider doing projects that'll help get food and supplies to some of our elderly shut-in people, okay? And also reach out to some of the hospitals, local emergency departments, especially in these smaller college towns, see what you have that you may be able to offer them, whether it's to use their kitchen or even some housing or something like that. If you can expand the use of your fraternities, sororities for some of the sick people, that'd be great. But see what they need. You'd be amazed once you at least reach out to them. Young college people, man, that's one of the best part is how the esprit de corps and ability to sort of mobilize the forces to address some of these issues. And as Churchill said, this is their finest hour. So hopefully they'll step up to the bat and do what's right and reach out and help our community.
We appreciate your words. Debbie says thank you so much. And we'll stay in contact. Hopefully we'll have you back on the show here to give some updates, and we'll
Sure.
just keep accumulating questions for you as we go. But
Sure.
thank you for the work that you're doing,
You're
and
welcome.
we care about you. We love you, and take
Thank
care
you.
of everybody and take care of yourself too.
I'll try. All right. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much.